Welcome to another episode of the Bandwagon podcast. And today is a guest. I would say it reminds me of my university life, if I'm being honest. And I'm not trying to age him while he's listening in. But he's like the Punjabi lawyer, professional, singer, everything, a man of many, many talents. I'd like to introduce Bikram Singh. Welcome to the Bandwagon podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome and kind words. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so we were I noticed when I first started some of the podcast stuff and I put these little clips up, I saw you like one of the posts and straight away I was like, oh shit. I was like, I remember this geezer,
I saw something that was that showed up on my feed. It was Juggy D.
Yeah.
He was talking about something, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So, I like that, him being talking about his personal life and personal struggles and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is really cool, man, that he's opening up about his personal life. And I was like, what is this? What podcast is this? And then I went on your page and I was like, oh, wow, he's had all these other people on. And it sounds like, he asks really good questions and sounds really interesting. So
yeah, I'll give it a bit of preface, like a bit of a preface on that. I was like, I've always had a kind of interest in music and just in my own general thing. So there's a lot of podcasters that are doing this. I know in yours, obviously stateside in New York, and it's kind of seen as one of the homes of podcasting. And I believe that you guys are about 2-3 years ahead of it in terms of UK. But even from a Disney point of view, it's even further back. So there's a few people who've done it, and there's more and more emerging. But I kind of come from a different space. It was always people who have interested me, a different kind of angle and more of the life story around it. Because you always find when you're looking, and it was sometimes I do like when I have the guests on, I do like a bit of research into them and say, and you normally find the standard kind of interview 6-7 questions, but it doesn't really get down and kind of get the journey in it. And then I think it kind of does a disservice. And I think these kind of long form interviews, I think one of the things that have come out, and especially the feedback I get, it was like, oh, I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that. And that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about the story, right?
Exactly, in it. It's always about the chase,
not the sound bites.
Yeah, wow, something, it's interesting you say that. It's what you do find that it's very easy to go clickbaity, to come up with a little clip and just to get that the initial hook. So sometimes, even when, and I admit it, sometimes when I'm finding a clip to kind of capture the audience to put it in there, because okay, fair enough, I might be just happy in doing it myself, but you've got a responsibility of somebody's life story or their story in your hands as well at the same time. So you're trying to give it justice and for them to get the most amount of attention as well, which is this kind of perverse side effect of what I didn't want to happen. So it's kind of the curse. So enough about that drama. Okay, I'm going to start off with it. Normally, I start off with the question of how people started in their kind of system. I'm actually going to go to the end bit and then jump back after.
Sure. Yeah.
So where you been?
Hiding. No, I've been around. I've grown. I've matured. I've grown. I've aged. I have a family. I have kids. I have responsibilities. I have a job. I've just been handling life. A living day to day, man. Just doing what a 42-year-old does, right?
Yeah. So like when you obviously we'll get to kind of the music bit. You're spinning many plates, and people probably didn't realize that in terms of how many plates you were spinning, and you're giving that concentration. And this is almost, the music is kind of like the shonk, that the not in a disrespectful way, but kind of the side hustle or from that response. You're able to do it. How difficult did you find it to kind of reprioritize what you wanted to do? Because you were very successful in that period that I was talking about in the 20 years you were when everyone mentions your name, Gama, the song which blew up everywhere, was a university kind of anthem. And then for you to kind of then reprioritize that a bit, it must have been much more of a difficult decision then.
The funny thing is that I started doing music around 2002, 2003 time. And around the same time, I was actually studying for my entrance exam for law school. So it wasn't that I did music first for a long time, and then, all of a sudden I was like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go into law. It was kind of like, I'm doing both at the same time, But obviously I didn't get into law school until 2005 after graduating from college or university or whatever. And that's when I kind of started focusing more on the law school, and kind of focused less on music. But the love for the music was still there. I was still traveling. I was still doing shows. I was still writing. So the music was always there. Music never left me. But my priorities changed over time, and that was because I was getting older, and I got married, and I started having kids, and grown man responsibilities came along. So I had to do what I had to do. But music had always been part of my life. I never really thought of that as kind of like a side hustle or anything like that. But it was kind of like, yeah, I could do both. Why not? I
think the other kind of comparison is G Sidhu, he's
yeah.
like
the funny thing is, I used to study for my law school entrance exam at the same university where he went. Okay. So I used to see him all the time, and he had a lot of respect for me, and we used to talk a lot back then. And it's good to see how far he's come. And he's a nice guy, man. I have a lot of respect for him. But that's a good comparison actually, because he's handling both aspects of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to get him on for a while actually, but I'm still going to persist. I think that's the hardest part of this bit. Your relationship with music then, where did that start then?
Ah, man, that was a long time ago. I was in right after, the second year of high school, I started taking classes at this theater program at New York University. These classes were offered to high school students, and I ended up joining. And some of the students there were very musically trained, very talented people, and so they would sing reggaeton or reggae or hip hop or whatever different cultures they came from, and they would incorporate music into theater. And I started bringing my style into it. And there was one time I had asked my brother to put a demo tape together. It was demo CD at the time. And he had put it together, and I just sang, I think maybe one or two songs, just like random samples. And right after I finished my class, I was walking by, and there was NYU open mic night hosted by the Sikh Association of New York University. And it said open mic night, anyone is welcome. So I went in, I popped that CD in, and I got an amazing reaction. And I was like, maybe I should do this more often. And that's when I started writing to different producers from UK and started connecting with different people who had studios where I can just go and record things. And Tigerstyle was one of the producers that I was listening to at the time a lot, and I reached out to them. They got in touch with me, and they said they were going to be playing a show in Washington, D.C. in about 2 weeks, and if I wanted to meet them, I could meet them there. I just so happened to be playing the same show, but the after party.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, that works out perfectly fine. And then they told me this is where they were staying, and we met up. We talked about music, and they said, well, you need to come over. Let's record some stuff. And that was it. I think it was like 2003 or 2004. I went to Scotland, Glasgow, and recorded the first album. Well, actually, the first two songs, which was Taakre and Nachna, and then Kama.
So I just want to decipher many elements of what you've just said there, because obviously in terms of like, I'm guessing the scene would have been a bit of a smaller scene at that time.
Yeah.
And you're doing it, it's more kind of culture in there. So in terms of your own personal inspirations, in terms of from a musical point of view, who would that be?
At the time, I was listening to Surinder Shinda, Kuldeep Manek, Sardul Sikandar, Hansraj Hans, Devi Maksuspuri, Manmohan Varis, Kulvinder Tillon, I think it was? No.
Kulvinder Tillon.
What's his name? There's so many. I mean, there a lot of people that were around that were making really good music. But from the old school, it was, Chamkila and
the usual suspects.
The usual suspects. A lot of the stuff that Panjabi MC was working on, with Kuldeep Manek and all these guys. But yeah, the inspiration came from so many different.
So how are you? It is what's always been interesting when I've done when I've kind of interviewed people from outside of the UK is how they used to access their music. How did you get access to that music? Because like I know there used to be a huge kind of bootlegging scene where Napster, LimeWire comes a little bit later on, but a lot of the early stuff, people used to come from the UK, go visit the UK, get all the tapes, kind of then reselling it and having a bit of a kind of a second economy, so to speak.
Yeah, well, there's a Punjabi Bazaar, the 74th Street, Jackson Heights area in Queens, and so every Sunday, my dad. My dad and I, or sometimes a family, we will go to the Gurdwara, and right after the Gurdwara, we'll go to Jackson Heights to buy Indian grocery. And when we would go there, I would ask him to buy me these tapes, or I would just pick them up from the shops and bring them home and listen to them. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. It was definitely lack of access to Punjabi music, or especially coming out of UK. Which happened to be a huge influence for me, at least. But yeah, I mean, it's just go to the shops, and buying it.
And so when obviously you've got the atmosphere of when you're making these tracks, or because you also a lyricist in that way. How did you kind of come about that? Was it because of lack of access to writers and you kind of do it yourself, or was it just your own kind of creativity?
I would just give it a shot myself. Just at that time, I had a lot of free time as well, where I can just sit and just focus on just coming up. What I would generally do is come up with a composition first. Or if I would just come up with like a first part of the hook, and then just develop it from there on. Sometimes I would just come up with a composition if there's a composition that I really like, but I want to change it a little bit. So I would do that. I would hum it, and then I would write lyrics on top of that composition. So it's just different ways of approaching it. What I generally didn't do, which a lot of artists these days do, is that they would just buy lyrics and with the composition, and they'll just sing it. I didn't do a lot of that. My approach was always different. Generally coming up with like a hook first, and then developing it into like a verse, and then 2 or 3 verses after that. So that's how Kama was written, actually.
And what do you mean? Like it was written in that kind of style?
Yeah. I mean, Kama. It didn't take me long to write that song. I think I would say maybe like an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours to write that song. It wasn't that it just it wasn't that complicated to write. It was just that, what I was thinking about was, just that feeling of like loneliness and, you know, two lovers apart, what are they saying to each other? What am I, how can I express, how can I put myself in the position to kind of express their feelings? So I basically, what I did was you know, I don't know how, it just, that came to me, comma by comma. And then I was like, how can I develop this? And slowly, things started coming to my mind and I had the hook. And then I went for a walk. I think I went for a walk, which was like maybe no more than like a mile. I came back, I think half the song was written. So that was the process at the time. It just came so naturally. It was so simple. It wasn't that complicated. And once that was done, I played it for, Pops and them at Tigerstyle, and they were like, "Oh, this is really cool, man. I think we can make something out of this." And then we had reached out to Gunjan to do her part, and she loved it, and I was really happy to have her, on board. I was like, "This is really cool, man. I never imagined that this would be something that
duet kind of, because the synergy, it's like almost it was a perfect kind of harmony and the synergy that came on and worked out.
Yeah, she's a great person to work with. She's all about music and no drama. I mean, very simple and easygoing and incredibly talented, as you know.
With something like that being so successful and you kind of just gone through the formula, did you feel like a more of a pressure in terms of coming up with another song and having that equal kind of success with it, or was it like subconsciously? I know, like, even as a base of this, if I felt like I've done a podcast which has gone really well, I always try and think, kind of build up momentum into the next one, but it might not click. It could be, there could be loads of different issues going on from there. But I have that self pressure on me in terms of that kind of that critical thinking. Are you in a similar mind frame when you're writing, or do you are you've got this skill base to kind of separate it and treat it as a different entity or a different project?
I would treat it as a different project. I'm it's really hard because I wasn't really into it for the purposes of following a protocol to make a hit,
Yeah.
After the first, after comma. It wasn't like, oh, I have to follow this. But I was also not opposed to the idea of something similar, Well, if it works, it works, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad song. It could be a good song. So it wasn't always, I didn't necessarily feel the pressure because, I was always, trying to be as honest as possible with me. And I just cared about just writing good stuff from the heart.
When you did part 2, for example, what was the thinking around that? Did you feel like it needed, you wanted to write that? Because from a commercial point of view, if I'm a label, I'll be like, God, they do part 2, do part 3, whatever it's going to be. You know what I mean?
I think it's time for part 3 now.
Yeah. Well, I think following this, it's got to come out. But did you just feel it was just natural timing, or?
I felt like it was natural time. One thing that I was afraid of, I wanted to make sure that it does justice to the first one. It's not kind of like a watered down version of the first one. So I just wanted to make sure the quality was still there, and so I just felt like, it had been, like almost 10 years, and, I thought it was time, and I reached out to Pops, and they were completely on board, and so was Gunjan. So, it just kind of like, it came naturally, and it just, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that the product is there, it does justice to the first. And when we recorded it, when we, I recorded my vocals, when they did the music, everything came out perfectly together. Um, then we just put it out, man. It was, the response was just amazing. So we were happy with it.
What was the I'm kind of talking it from a personal point of view. I remember what the atmosphere, what the scene was like in the early 2000s. For somebody coming in from outside of the UK, what was your first experiences of like the UK industry at that time? I know you even went to another more secluded place in Scotland, but did you manage to travel down in towards like Midlands or London area or speak
I
with
did.
other producers?
I did. I was in Birmingham. I was working with Ravi Ball at the
Yeah.
time. I traveled to Leicester, um, London, and so many different places. And my expression was that I was like, wow, there are a lot of Punjabis here. Coming from America, where everything is kind of like spread out. I was like, wow, this is really cool, and a lot of people are into producing and making music. This is really, really cool. So I kind of felt like this was my home. I felt like welcomed in this community of musicians and artists, and it kind of helped me, or kind of nurtured my talent, to continue doing what I was doing, or expand on it, or build on it. So I felt incredibly, welcomed and humbled by that experience.
You just touched on another legend just there in terms of with Ravi Bal. What was that experience like when you were with him?
It was good. It was good. I mean, he's straight business. Gets you in and gets you in the vocal booth, and not a lot of talking, but very nice guy. I had an incredible experience with him. He was always nice, always nice. I in fact still, try to stay in touch with him. But recently he's been going through some stuff. I don't really want to get into it, but I've kind of, lost a little bit of touch with him. But for the most part, I try to stay in touch with him as much as I can. Nice guy, incredible talent.
And did you find was there any kind of experience when you're working with the producers where it was more challenging? And what I mean by challenging is in terms of like from a skill set, from a base, because some producers, like as you just said, are very quiet. They just do get in there. Some are very much more hands-on. Was there any kind of experiences where you thought, hang on, I've got to go away and learn this properly, rather than or actually getting away with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I felt like probably Ravi Ball, because this guy, he had been working with so many legends, um, classically trained, and incredible talent when it comes to just playing instruments and recording and all that stuff. And I think it's just finished Midas Touch 2 or something like that with Malkeet Singh. So I was like, man, this guy records Malkeet Singh, and Malkeet Singh is, my inspiration, one of the inspirations. So I better be on my A game, So, but yeah, man, he was cool. It was challenging, but he made it very comfortable for me to be there and just work with him. And it was nice, man. Really, really cool people, and his musicians like Gubsy and all these guys. They were very nice people too. So shout out to Gubsy. Nice people, man. Very humble, and nice people to work with. A lot of fun, a lot of memories, good memories.
You're in your early 20s at the time. I'm guessing in the 2000s. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you're getting quite a lot of attention. You're smiling already, so I know this is a good kind of or nervous kind of smile. What was it like as a young person when you're looking back as you are now? Do you reflect on it as a good time or cringy time? I mean, like, I'm saying it from a personal point. I sometimes look at my early 20s and I'm like, oh my God, I was a fucking idiot, man. Sometimes you think, oh God, I did this, oh, I did that.
I was, you know, fortunate enough to be going through that phase of my life. Um, it, you know, introduced me to so many incredible people. Um, it, you know, helped me grow as a person, as an artist. Um, I visited so many places. I performed in so many places. I got to see so many different places when, you know, a lot of these people don't even get an opportunity to travel and see these places, even, you know, when they're in their 50s. So I got to do that in my 20s, um, and share my music, share my songs. So from that perspective, you know, just an incredible journey it's been. And I also had good people around me, you know, like, you know, the guys um, who guided me, like, you know, Tigerstyle and all these guys. Um, you know, they were always there for me, always helped me in any way they could. Um, you know, they were guiding me throughout the entire process, so I didn't really feel like I was alone. You know, and if I was making stupid mistakes or anything like that, they would tell me that. You know, and so, you know, at that point you kind of grow up so fast, so you have to kind of mature fast. So you try not to
Do,
make
do you
stupid
think
decisions.
you do you think you appreciated it?
I did. I think I appreciate it now more.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like at the time, like, do you
Yeah,
think it was?
yeah, yeah. You know, the thing is that I was doing so many things. I was,
Mm,
you know, there were times when I was doing, like, you know, 5, 6 gigs in, you know, Europe in like a span of like maybe like 2 to 3 days. You know, I was just going and knock them out and come back and then, you know, go back to school. You know, it was just so much happening. So you don't really get an opportunity to kind of think and appreciate what you're going through because a lot of things are happening so fast. But as you mature, as you get older and you mature, you kind of reflect on it and you appreciate it a lot more as far as what you've done than when you're actually in the moment.
do you ever remember a particular kind of gig or anything like where you reach and you go, this, I'm doing something crazy here.
Oh, there's so many, so many. I mean, you know, a lot of the music festivals that we've done in Germany was like 20,000 people, and um, the London melas that we did, you know, those were always fun. And then we did a summer jam. I think one of the highlights was, you know, I was touring with Punjabi MC and we did a Boston summer jam. You know, and I was singing up one the other Pachkirani song actually with him. So that was kind of cool. Where it was like, I don't know, like 60,000 people there, and you know, just an incredible experience. But you know, there's been so many different experiences just traveling all around the world, and you know, just being on stage and sharing my music. It's been an
Yeah, but
incredible experience so
Punjab
far.
Punjabi MC's passport, I would say, is probably the most
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
crazy he's got out there. I remember I had a conversation with him not too long ago, actually, and he was telling me about some of the crazy like places that he's played, like in Russia and
Oh yeah,
all these.
yeah,
And he's like, and he goes, "I did this, I had X." And it was. I was like, "What?"
yeah. Yep, yep. That's the best part. See, that's why music is an international kind of language, right? No matter where you are, I mean, if it connects you, you know, if it hits you here, that's all that matters. I mean, a lot of these Russians, like, do they really understand Punjabi? No, but they connect through music.
Hmm.
So a lot of the times when we were doing shows um, in Germany, or there was a show that I did in Switzerland, in Basel, and you know, I would say I think maybe 10% of the people there, or maybe 15% out of maybe 20,000, there were Desis. Everyone else was just, you know,
Hmm.
uh, whites or different races, and I was like, this is kind of cool. they're really progressive when it comes to music. I mean, this is not something that you would see in the States or anywhere else, So that was really incredible. I mean, music connects people from around the world, and that's the most beautiful thing about music. And that's why you see PMC, going around and you're doing
Still killing it.
really obscure places.
Still killing it.
Yeah.
So like from stuff that you said, it is like, it does sound, from one point of view, like obviously you're very calculated in terms of the stuff that you were doing. Was it in terms of where you've got your career and your law qualification and your law school going down? Did you make a kind of a conscious decision to try and to slow down some of the music side and reprioritize towards that?
It kind of happened naturally. I didn't really. It wasn't kind of like, oh, I'm going to stop this so I can focus on this. It was never like that. I kind of, music started taking backseat. I would probably say around maybe 2010, 2011. It started lagging a little, if you will.
What is that for you personally? Because it's funny you mentioned that. That was around about the time where a lot of gigs stopped happening, especially in the UK, and there was a bit of a lull in the market in itself. I think the transition from going to digital format, more away from kind of CDs, and gigs were slowing down and that as well. And to be honest, there was a lot of shit music out there at that time. Like,
yeah.
Was that?
I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe because I graduated from law school in 2008. I started practicing in 2009. So, I started my own practice in 2009, and I kind of started focusing a lot more in building the practice. So I would say naturally, I was spending a lot more time doing legal stuff than writing songs or producing song or music. So I would say that was kind of like a natural progression, and perhaps the lag in music coming out of the UK or lack of gigs or whatever may have something to do with it too, giving me more time to focus more on music. Maybe it played a role, but I would say around that time, music was kind of taking back scene, and I was kind of taking off, from another direction. And then slowly, and I was just kind of like, okay, maybe I'll take some time out to do another song. Maybe I'll take time out to do another song, but here and there. But it's tough. It's tough because you don't have that. For you to be creative, in my opinion, you need time. You need time. You need not necessarily time, but you need your mind in the right state. Okay. Yeah. I can't be working all day, right, handling cases, and then come home and sit myself in a room and say, all right, well, write a song. I can't do that. That's not how it works. You have to be in the right state of mind, and you have to have free time. You need to have some sort of free time to do that. And so that's what's been challenging for me, as far as just, having enough time to be creative. I want to do a lot of things. I think I still have another album in me, maybe another 16 songs. Yeah.
Wow.
I do. I'm optimistic, So I do want to take some time out. I sometimes I think about this, maybe I should go away for like a couple of weeks and come back after like 10, 15 songs and then, just send it out to different producers and let them do their magic with it. But it's easier said than done. It's once you're in it, it's hard to get out of this life. So I'm optimistic. I do want to get back into it, and I'm doing it slowly. In fact, it's not at the same rate as it used to be, obviously, but I'm still hanging in there.
And while were you still having a keen interest in what was happening in the Bhangra scene, the Punjabi music? Were you listening, or did you kind of turn off?
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
I you know, a lot of the times when I want to do something, or my mind is triggered that I should do something, it's because I'm listening to what's coming out, around me. And then I'm like, oh man, this melody's really cool. Maybe I could change it around a little bit, and maybe the lyrics should be this way. So yeah, that gives me inspiration. So I absolutely listen to a lot of the new stuff that's coming out.
And what's your opinion of with the new stuff? So like, I'll give it a bit of context in this. So like, obviously, kind of, if we look at the power, let's say the Bhangra is a power shift, moved from kind of like India to the UK was dominating for a while. And then Canada was just, and North America were just very famous for kind of like remixing and rehashing a lot of older stuff and then putting it out. And then you have seen this big kind of power shift going to Canada and North America. And then now it's kind of, I think the UK has come back onto the scene pretty strong now.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of that? Because you've experienced that in the last sort of 20 years.
Yeah, it's good, and I think there are some drawbacks to it as well.
What's the drawbacks? Let's start there.
It's a lot. Market is saturated. Which one do you listen to? I mean, a lot of because it's so saturated and possibly pumped, by a lot of money. There are a lot of stuff that's coming out that's not necessarily quality stuff, but they're pumping a lot of money into it. A lot of the times the real good stuff, gets hidden, and it doesn't come forward. The stuff that really does deserve to be, shared with people. So I think the market saturation is one aspect that's not necessarily good. But the good aspect is a lot of good stuff coming out. A lot of. I honestly didn't know that. Man, these new guys, how much of hip hop influence they have. A lot of these young Punjabi cats that are coming out of Canada, like Shub, even AP Dillon, like his style is kind of like that too. And Palwan from India, I think is from India. He's really good. I mean, a lot of these new guys, man, I didn't know they would have such big hip hop influence. That was kind of shocking to me. And a lot of their beats, if you listen to it, is like old school 90s hip hop beats.
Do you think that Bhangra's Punjabi music, especially that kind of that genre of market, is sort of my favorite? But I do see it kind of dwindling when you listen to a lot of the new gen, and when you speak to a lot of the new gen, where they talk about their music, there's less and less Bhangra instruments or Punjabi instruments used in songs. And the lyrics, I feel, are becoming more and more simpler, because I think that's what the audience is used to. That's maybe the capacity side in terms of kind of the language that they understand and speak along. They're not complex. AP Dillon's lyrics are not very complicated.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I think that's why they kind of resonate with a lot of younger people, that they can connect. So like that hip hop and the door that goes around with it, I think that synergy. There's always certain beats that always go together. Reggae and Bhangra music, and Bhangra always has got that good kind of connection. It's very difficult to do. I don't know. I'm coming up with a random kind of beat, and to genre of music. I need to get a genre of music now which doesn't necessarily connect properly. Is there one that's, I don't know, Riverdance? I'm just making it up. But I always found there was always certain kind of styles of music and Punjabi music goes together. And I think hip hop and Bhangra go together like hand in glove.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that I'm in a smaller catchment now, and it's reducing time and time again. And you do see that. Do you feel that, or am I going off on a random?
No. It's a legitimate, point. I think, yes, but music has always been evolving, and it follows society. Are we still listening to Asa Singh Mastana? The way that the music was made at that time? No. I mean, I'm sure people that were listening to music at the time, maybe, our dad's time, like the 60s or 70s or whatever, they would say whatever came out in the late 80s or early 90s was rubbish,
Mm.
right? Or it's
No, a copy, a copy. Yeah, everything was a copy.
Yeah, but but that's how it is. The society evolves, right? And then the music follows, right? So I mean, if the a lot of the young people or the younger generations vocabulary in terms of Punjabi um, is limited, right? Maybe they find the newer stuff, that stuff that's simplified, more appealing,
So
and
you were talking, and it's just my own kind of way of thinking in terms of what asking you really. You said you got an album in you got 16, 17. Would you make an album for you, or would you be making the album for what the listener is after? Because
I'll be making it for me.
yeah.
I'll be making it for me. Maybe there's one aspect of, for me, it's always like, wait, I'm not like pigeon myself in a specific genre or a type of music. What I'm gonna do is maybe I'll take a little bit of that. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that. I like that from there. I like this from there. Maybe I'll combine it too. So I will make it for myself. I would make it for in fact, I do. Whatever you may have seen recently that has come out is just me having fun. I'm not trying to get signed, or I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get gigs. I really am not. It's just stuff that I'm making at home and having fun listening to at home, like with my kids. I'll put it out. If anyone likes it, great. Not, it's all good.
Was there any nearly projects? So I mean this so what I mean by this is when I've interviewed people, they've always said, there's a project and it was mainstream, and this is I remember there was an album that somebody had done with Timbaland, and they came and it was just about to get released and they pulled the plug on it. Was there any kind of nearly projects that you had where it was about to come out and it didn't?
Yeah, I think there was one. In fact, actually, that track was, it's been so long, I don't even know the name of the song anymore. Promiscuous Girl, I think it was, with Nelly Furtado.
Okay.
Yeah, I had done, we had done a remix of that, like an official remix. And I don't think it was ever released. In fact, it was good remix. I don't even know. Maybe it was leaked or something. I don't know. Maybe it's there somewhere, but I haven't seen it. But that was, one official kind of like a mainstream project that I had worked on, but it never got released.
So did they approach you to do it, or did you just do it yourself? Or
they approached me. In fact, we recorded it in Philly and Philadelphia. I had driven from New York to Philadelphia to record it too. So
I thought, like, I barely know the end of my road. So, like, in terms of hours and times, like, because to travel anywhere in America is always hours, isn't it? It's not miles.
Whatever. The thing is, I had always had a lot of energy to do a lot of things. I was always jumping around, so I didn't really mind. I was doing shows like, 2-3 shows every weekend. During the week I was, obviously doing my thing at my practice, but on the weekends I was always doing shows and stuff. So I had a lot of energy, man. I was running around, so it didn't really matter to me. But whatever, it was one of those things. Happened.
Was there any lessons that you learned from your music career that as you were going into law? What was that experience like?
What do you mean in terms of?
I mean, like, there's I read a quote today that 80% of what you do in life is dealing with people, so with people management.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like when you're an artist and you're that young, you're dealing with many different types of art. You're dealing with promoters, you're dealing with audience, you're dealing with the fan base, you're dealing with pressure, you're dealing with work-life balance, you're dealing with your own kind of goals and stuff. Was there anything that you could take from that when you were going into kind of law? Because it feels like already that you already lived one life, and then now you're going.
But the thing is that, you know, when you're an artist, you can have a manager. You don't have to deal with people, right? They can handle all your bookings and, you know, your management of projects, or, you know, whatever you're working on. But when you know, when you're in a legal profession, you are the profession. You know, you are the firm. You know, you have to kind of deal with people yourself. Like, the clients want to see you. You know, that's our firm is a small firm. You know, it's me with two partners, me and my wife. She's an attorney as well, and we have you know, two people that work for us. And so, you know, a lot of the times the client, you know, we have to deal with the clients ourselves. We have to be the face of the firm. That's what they want to see. But yeah, I mean, it's a little different. It's a little different. It's a lot more stuff that I'm dealing with than, you know, when I was doing music, as far as dealing with people is concerned. It's a lot more, obviously, a lot more hectic in a legal profession. But, you know, there's lessons to be learned from both sides, right?
Well, if one from the appearance is different from what I remember from seeing you from many years ago. Was there what was the thinking around that?
You mean like
just a stage? Was it a stage in life where you thought, to go down? Is the maturity that you mentioned earlier on?
You mean as far as like keeping my case and stuff?
Yeah, I guess, because obviously, like, I'm guessing the Sikh community in New York is, I'm not guessing massive. I bet it is growing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I come from a Sardar family. I mean, my dad is Sardar, my grandfather is Sardar, is, you know, Chacha and Taya, for the most part, you know, all Sardars. And, you know, my brother is Sardar. So when I had my son, and I'll tell you, you know, this is exactly what happened, right? I was already at that stage. I was like, maybe I should, you know, start keeping my hair. But then I had my son, and when I had my son, and my dad told me at the time, he was like, don't you dare touch the scissors to his head, to his hair. And I was like, say no more, say no more. And then, you know, when my son was growing up, and obviously he was keeping hair, and I was just like, this is, you know, this doesn't make sense. You know, if he has hair, then I have to have hair. And it's just, you know, becoming mature and wiser and a little bit more spiritual as well, you know, with age. So it was a combination of a lot of different things. But that was, you know, one aspect of, I think, why I was thinking that it was important to keep hair. And you know, just to be Sardar and representing two aspects of life, it was good, you know. I don't know. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it's just fairly deep, because it's always like when kids are involved, they're always there's extra kind of the emotion that's always there.
I mean, you know, like, it's kind of like I'm subconscious about that kind of stuff, right? Like, everyone is different. Everyone, you know, there are a lot of people that, you know, I know a lot of people who have kids that are keeping their hair, but they don't keep their hair, right? I know a lot of people, and that's their prerogative. That's their personal life. I have, you know, nothing to do with that. I'm not judging them in any way. But for me, I was subconscious about that, because I was like, well, you know, if my son is going to keep hair and I'm just walking around, you know, without hair, without bug or whatever, it's just, I don't know, man. I just kind of felt weird about that. And like I said, it was a kind of like a progress in terms of growing older and becoming wiser and becoming spiritual, and, you know, just recognizing yourself. You know, you're thinking like, man, I come from, such an amazing religion, and our ancestors have died for this, all right? And this should be recognized as your crown. And if you start recognizing these things, you're automatically drawn to it, and you want to do the right thing by you and your family.
Do you think that's going to influence your kind of choice of music or what you want to do in the future?
Probably not. No, I don't know. I don't know. Probably, I don't know. Maybe some aspects of it. I don't know. I'm still in the process of putting, songs together for the album. So I'm not going to do an album. Probably, like an EP or something like that first, and then maybe
EPs have gone big now, aren't they? There's loads of EPs and stuff.
Yeah, maybe 6 songs or something like that.
But EP is always I remember Haj Nagra said this. He goes, "Oh, EPs are not the true EPs of what it used to be. It's just extended plays. The albums are different to EPs, and they need to be the story of it."
Yeah. I mean, I remember EPs being 3 original songs and like 3 remixes, and that's your EP. But I don't know how it is these days. But I see a lot of people releasing that these days, though. It's really interesting. But I don't know. We'll see. I think probably 6 songs first, and then possibly doing singles thereafter. Probably.
Have you got an idea of who you want to produce it?
I don't. I'm probably definitely going to have Tigerstyle on it. There's no doubt about that.
I've tried to get him on here. I've tried to get him on here. It's just
who?
Pops. Yeah, I've been speaking to Pops.
You tried?
Yeah. He was, believe it or not, he was one of the first people that I ever tried when I started this.
Oh wow!
And we went back and forth on an email, spoke a couple of times. I was trying to get them both in there because they've gone into different jobs. Let's say different lifestyle, and I just couldn't get the timing right, and it just kind of just fizzled out. So because I was on holiday when we first discussed, because we were supposed to record this 2-3 days ago, and I've been really bad on it. My jet lag has been terrible, but as soon as I saw that, it stoked the memories of when trying to speak with those guys and how important they were, how their music was so influential. And it was perfect for when for you to pick at that time. They were like gold dust at the time.
Yeah, and aside from being one of the pillars of Punjabi music coming out of UK, they were just incredible people. Just incredible people to hang around with. Just incredible knowledge that they would share with me. As far as music or just life in general, and these guys know a lot of history. So it's really an affair, just sitting down and just talking to them. It's just an incredible feeling. And just going to their house, just hanging out with their parents, and just talking and going out, for dinners and stuff like that. I mean, just being around them is just a lot of fun, man. Just like my brothers, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So
who else now at the moment sort of takes your eye when you listen, or you keep an eye out for?
Who am I listening to these days? Is that
who you listen to these days, but who else do you kind of like keep an eye on?
I don't know, man. I like Mani Sandhu. Mani Sandhu has a really unique kind of sound.
And
And
I knew you were going to say that.
yeah,
I just knew you were going to say Money.
he's incredible, man. Incredible talent. I like. He's very unique. Like he has the way he uses the synths, and the bass lines, and I think I don't know if you would agree with this, but it looks like the UK garage may be coming back. Is that a thing or no?
Let me.
Or maybe they're trying to bring it back, but it's not the same, obviously. But
UK garage is one of. I've got a very skewed version of this because I also believe that at that time, some of the music around UK garage, kind of ruined Bhangra for me.
I know you're the desi head.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Dealt with a lot of this.
Look, I've had this discussion online, offline, and it was just it was for me. It was kind of for me at the beginning of the end, but it served its time. It served its purpose, and it helped progress it. It became a phase. It became a new phase, like how jungle was in there. But I always think everyone resorted back to the Dol and Tumbi was always there.
Of course, you gotta go back to the fundamentals.
So exactly. So like I think garage now will always be there because it fits nice. It's good. Is it my favorite? It wasn't my favorite back then, but strangely enough, when I listen to it back now, older, I like it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine where I'm like,
right.
You know, it was okay at that. You know, it was all right at the time because they affiliate with memories.
Yeah.
But I think you'll start seeing loads of different phases starting to come. I think there'll be a phase of house Bhangra. I think there'll be a phase of maybe jungle will come back again, a little bit of drum and bass. These continues to because now you got such a wide eclectic kind of music choices out there. And there's always going to be a producer out there who does your type of music.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think that choice was there before.
Right. Because there wasn't so,
the bands had it in a little way because there was always a sound like you'd always go to listen, like Sahota's always had a sound.
Yeah.
Or Safri always had a different sound, or Mulki or Apra had a very traditional sound. So you knew like whatever took your fancy of bands, you always know that you'd like their kind of music. I think that choice kind of dwindled away during the the early 2000s and mid 2000s. But I think now you got a lot of I think because the way how music you said it was saturated of how consumers take them music. There was a clip I saw on a meme, someone put it up about how people don't value music anymore. All they want is your hard drive.
Yeah. Right.
So and so like if people are not
I saw that too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who put it. It must be someone who we follow who put it up. I can't remember.
Yeah. It was I think it was like one of the hip hop artists talking about
it could be 50s. Yeah. No, it weren't 50 Cent. No, he'd be swearing. It was someone I saw it and it hit home there where people were like
we're talking about the era where if you look at the CD, right, the art of the CD, it represented something, right?
The inlay, the value of it.
Inlays, right? The credits, it represented something. Who did what?
Backing vocals. Where was it? Where was it? Who distributed it? What was it? Because that's the story of it. And then you got to the point where people can't be asked to pay 79p for your value for that music. Now it's gone to like streaming website. Now it's just on YouTube. And like the artists are like, if you think about it, if a project's costing 10 grand to put together, what's the return on investment? Will they see that back at some point? You're hoping that they'll get gigs, you're doing all that. And then it just kills it. And you're only hearing the select few stories. Because I was, and this is more of a therapy session for me, this podcast, actually. The more I'm thinking about it, it must be the lawyer in you. I'm just admitting everything. So I was speaking to somebody and an artist about another artist, and they asked me their opinion. And I just said, I think they're fucking shit, man. They've been doing it for how many years now? I ain't done nothing. And then he actually, then I said, what's your opinion of him? And he goes, he's trying, man. He's trying. And that one word that he said, they're trying, it made me feel this small, like an absolute prat. I was like, this is just, I felt, where that I slipped into immaturity, and now I'm older, and I could recognize that I slipped into that beat, because what he was saying was actually true, was that as long as they're having a go, they're trying, you never know what can happen. If you don't try, then it's not going to happen.
Right.
So it was
That's
almost,
what it's resorted to.
I'm at this, I don't know, I was at this epiphany of when that happened, when he said it, this revelation, and I was like, I need to take that philosophy into a lot of my other kind of understanding of working with people. But I was also really miserable at that stage where we were having that conversation, because but it was really interesting. I thought about that earlier this day, where somebody was doing something, and I thought, look, man, at least they're having a go, they're having a try. And it made me, even that feeling just makes you happier rather than just slagging someone off.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much do you charge for this therapy session? So what kind of law do you specialize in there? Because I didn't really see it.
I do.
Hopefully you're going to say criminal, because I want to get the best stories out now.
No, I don't. My partner Rena, my wife, she does criminal defense, and she does personal injury and medical malpractice. I do real estate litigation and business law.
Jameen in it, basically, proper desi.
Yeah, I don't do immigration. That's proper desi right there, though. I'm not her job.
Ajap is a guy.
By the way, I love that guy. He's awesome. I talk to him sometimes on Twitter here and there. But nice.
I have an annual. I say annual. I've only done it once, but every Christmas I made the promise to him that I'd get him on. So in the Christmas edition is him coming on, and we just have a virtual glossy and just let him go. I just wind him, just wind him up and just let him go, because he's just pure entertainment. He was the first guest I had on.
No way.
Yeah, I just knew it. I just knew.
He's one funny geezer, man.
When do you get a chance to come over to the UK? Is there a timing, or what the kind of? I know you've hinted at the album. What does the next sort of 12 to 24 months look like for you?
So I'm thinking of going to Scotland and London next year, probably in the summertime. And we talk about this, but I haven't seen Pops and them in a very long time, and I think it's probably about 6 years since I've seen them. And since then, they've had kids. Raj had kids before that, but Pops has kids, and my kids are getting older. So one of the things that we're talking about is getting the kids together, getting the families together, so that we can, I can tell my kids, or they can tell their kids that, this is who I am, and we've had an amazing, journey, when it comes to music, and we could just introduce our families to each other and just hang out and reconnect after such a long time. So we want to do that next year. And I think while doing that, I'll probably be spending a little bit of time in London and seeing some of my old friends.
So this is the bandwagon, and I give this opportunity to everybody. Is on the bandwagon, you could either is there something, a bandwagon that you want to jump on or jump off, or is there just something else that you just want to get off your chest? This is kind of your space to do that.
I don't know. Jump off of bandwagon or jump on bandwagon?
Or just generally, it could be anything else that you just want to get off your chest.
I see what you mean. Man, I am, when it comes to law, I am as tough as they get. Okay. But when it comes to music and art and the way people are doing their thing and expressing themselves, as long as you're not hurting anyone, right? Fair game. Do your shit. do your shit. Just, the thing is, I'm at an age where nothing phases me, man. Nothing like, I don't get mad. I don't get angry at anything anymore. There are so many different types of people in this world. They're doing their different things. There's so much going on, especially with social media and all this Instagram stories and all that shit that's coming out. And, people are making 1 minute and 30-second songs. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. And if that's what's working for you, that's what's working for you. I mean, I don't give, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not. So that's something that I wanted to get off my chest. I don't know if I'm doing that, but regardless, my point is that, there's so much going on. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to be angry, to hold grudges against anyone or judge anyone in terms of what they're doing with their careers or their, passion as far as their music is concerned, or I don't really care. I'm just a peaceful, I'm just living my life. Whatever time I have, I'm going to dedicate that to be artistic. And I do want to tell you this, that I want to get back into making the old school Bikram Singh type music.
Yes.
I want to get back into writing those, the ballads, you know what I mean? Like the love songs, the tip top with the jet, that kind of, that kind of vibe. And when I tell you that I have been working on, getting the songs together, a lot of that would be that type of genre or, that type of style of music. So I'm looking forward to getting back into it. But it'll be true to its essence, Hopefully it's not something that's, that doesn't, reflect on me as, not being pure or original or, or fake.
It's your style, it's your sound, that's your specialty, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'll try that and see how that works out.
Well, I'm gonna now when this comes out, obviously everyone's gonna know and have that expectation on you now. And when it does, obviously I'll have to get you back on then.
Anytime, man. Anytime. I was just so happy that you reached out because I've seen your podcast, and I was like, you ask really good questions, and I like the fact that it's very personal. Just sit and just chill, talk.
Yeah. It's
like it's like you're sitting in front of me, right?
Well, yeah. It's I'm so look at the bags under my eyes. It's still the jet lag that I got, and I just knew. I was like, when it hit, I was like, yeah, man, I gotta speak to him, and
it's really nice of you, man.
You always get it's important that a lot of the times your stories that people kind of have an idea because of the work and the graft that you guys have done.
It's just man, like I still get a lot of messages from people, all over the world, just sending messages. Oh, I'm a big fan. I love Kama. It takes me back to my uni days. It takes me back to my high school days. And it does kind of take you back to those times. And then I kind of feel, grateful for the fact that I was able to do that, to give them those memories that they have now and that will stay with them for forever. And that song had a major impact on my life, obviously, but it definitely had a lot of impact on a lot of other people's lives. It was really interesting. I was actually just in Santorini, Greece, with my family. I was just on a vacation, and we were just sitting outside on a balcony, and this guy and a girl passed by, and they just like stared at me for a little bit. They're like, and then they just kept on walking. And the guy came back. He was like, "You Bikram Singh, yeah?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, oh man, we had Kama on repeat when I was young, man. I'm a big fan and all that kind of stuff." And this is happening in Greece, So provided the guy was from England, but still, but you could see how far the music travels, and just the memories that you give them, how how they stay with these people for a very, very long time, and how much meaning they hold to them.
Yeah. Bikram, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate you taking time out and jumping on here. And I wish you all the success in the future. And when that comes out, that'd be brilliant. And we'll definitely keep in touch and then get you back on, man.
Thank you so much, man. You go to sleep, get some rest.
Thanks, man. Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Ricky, man. Thank you so much. All right.